Well, I hope my phone data holds up.
Okay. So we'll give people a couple minutes to trickle in, Brian.
Yeah, it looks like nobody's joined yet. And you do have these slides as well, right?
I do have them.
Okay. Maybe nobody will come and it will be a short webinar.
We'll just do Q&As the entire time.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you then. I just have to ask you questions, right?
Yeah, shoot.
How's it going in Boston?
It's good. The weather is pretty all right. I'm actually based in Providence, Rhode Island most of the time, but
All right.
it's very well the same climate.
So do you teach full-time at RISD and MIT, or what's your official gig?
Part-time at both. And I'm in my shop studio now where I do prototyping and fabrication work. Yeah.
Nice.
And host webinars.
Right. Well, last run when I did this intro webinar was a disaster because my internet went bang.
And well, Brian, you've been jet setting around recently, huh?
I try to, jet set.
Yeah.
I don't do a very good job of it.
You were in San Francisco recently?
Yeah, we got a job with up there. Beth and I are both working with a company over there, so that starts today. Not enough time in the day, Jerome.
Yep. Does this 3 participants include us?
Yeah, it does. I'm not sure why nobody has joined. Let me just panelists.
Should program support check the link? Just make sure that people are clicking on the right thing.
Well, we have shared the link with them. We should be expecting.
Can we make sure it's the correct link so that they're being directed here?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
It is odd to have no one here. Yeah. Maybe I should go back and check my other internet.
Yeah, this is pretty odd. Even though we're still live on YouTube.
Oops. Stop doing that, Brian. Well, I guess I'll just leave this on my phone data.
Yeah, I think you're good, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, isn't now when you tell jokes?
Yeah.
Where does the king keep his armies, Jerome? Up his sleeves. These are ones you can use in class.
My wife would be so good at this. What jokes do I have?
And I find that college-age students love jokes that are directed at like 9-year-olds.
Oh yeah, dad jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Except that every time someone accuses me of a dad joke, it's usually a joke that doesn't land at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm okay with being with dad jokes. It's usually by my daughter, so that works out okay.
Yeah. It's not a tough crowd, huh?
No. She doesn't laugh at any of my jokes anyways.
All right. We have participants coming in.
All right.
Woohoo. It's a flood. I think we should
welcome
just
5
minutes in.
Looks like folks are joining. Welcome to the first office hour of the course. We'll get started in just a moment here. We'll let a few more folks trickle in. What do you think, Jerome? Should we get started or wait a minute?
We should just get started. Say hi when you come in. Please open up your Q&A window. We'll walk you through that in a second. So I think you should just kick it off, Brian, because we're a couple minutes.
All right, let's get moving. Looks like folks have found the chat window. One quick note, some of you have jumped into the chat already. Make sure when you open the chat window, and we'll show you how to do that in just a minute. In fact, let's just show you now. Under the more options there's an option to choose chat. And when you open up that chat window, make sure that the blue bar down at the bottom says all panelists and attendees. For some reason, the default is all panelists, which means only Jerome and I in program support will see your comments. So we want everybody to be able to chat. So it looks like a lot of you have found that. Great.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Coming by now. Let's get started. Welcome to the first office hour introduction to the course. And I see some of you have put questions in the Q&A, and that's okay too. Make sure when you say hello in Q&A, actually be best to say hello over in the chat, and we'll leave Q&A for questions later. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Let's get started. Just real quick, how to set up your audio. I'm sure most of you have figured this out already because you're in Zoom. There is a way to join this using a variety of different listening options. You can see down here, there's this little caret right next to the start video. And if you click on that, it gives you some options about how to choose headphones or speakers or what you might want to use to listen to this office hours. And with that, let's get started here. Jerome, you wanna introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I was just answering a question here using the Q&A window. Hi, I'm Jerome. Jerome Arroyo. I am one of the course leaders here with Emeritus, teaching you this MIT Sloan class. I teach part-time at the Rhode Island School of Design, particularly industrial design things, and at the MIT D-Lab. And I'm also going to introduce another one of my course leaders here, Jin Wu, who is a grad student at the Integrated Design Management program at MIT at the moment, and has a very, very strong background in design and human-centered design. And Brian, I guess you can do you and Beth.
Sure. Yes, you will notice, for those of you who are paying attention to details, as good designers do, that one of our course leaders, Beth Cooperrider, has the same last name as me. So we are in fact married. We are a design household. We both have our degrees from Stanford University, master's degrees in product design, and we do run our own company doing design consulting as well. I've been a teacher for a lot of years. I used to be the director of a design for practice program here at our local university. And Beth has really focused on doing consulting work for a variety of companies all over the world. So we are delighted to join you guys as well as course leaders. All right, and it's just Jerome and I here today. So I do want to tell you guys that you can ask questions at any time. I'm gonna kind of introduce you to our agenda here real quick. I just want to point out first that Q&A is at the bottom, but that doesn't mean that you have to wait to ask your questions. If you type your questions in the Q&A, we'll probably get to those towards the end. Please pile in with the chat. And when one of us is speaking, the other will probably be checking the Q&A. So don't wait till the end to ask your questions. That's not a requirement. So what are we going to do today? Welcome introduction. We already did that. We're going to talk about you. So give you a little bit of information about your fellow colleagues in the course. We'll do kind of an introductory icebreaker, which some of you may have seen before. Do a little course overview, talk about what's going on in the course, our kind of key framework. Talk a little bit about assignments and what's required. We'll tell you about the webinars and office hours. So these are the live participatory kind of segment of the course. Tell you a little bit how to use Canvas. Some of you may have used it before, but if not, it can be a little confusing. So we'll step you through that. And then we'll talk about how the course is starting off and what needs to be done right off the bat. And of course, we have tips for success, a pretty short kind of talk there. And we'll, most importantly, we'll tell you how to get help, because that's something that all of you will need to know, and who to direct your questions to. And then whatever time is remaining, which we're going to try and leave about 15 minutes specifically just to answer questions. So let's get started. All right, we're gonna do a little warm up. If you were in a marketing webinar before the course started, you will have seen this already. I am going to stop this. This is the scariest moment in this presentation, to make sure that that I share the right thing. So let's go ahead and got a little video, and I'm going to ask you in this video to just go ahead and watch. And in the chat, go ahead and type in what you see. Anything that happens. We can start by telling you the guy's wearing a yellow shirt. So it's a 30-second video. Go ahead and check this out.
Yeah, I'm headed there now. Okay, on my way. Good.
You're good?
Yeah. No, that's okay. Yeah. That's why no talk on the phone when you're.
All right. So keep those observations coming. I'm going to get us back to our PowerPoint here. All right. He's busy multitasking. Great observation, Laura. It's a white truck. It's good he had a helmet. Also good observation, Fabio. So here's some kind of questions to cue you a little bit. What's he doing? What was around him? Many of you are answering these questions already. What's the condition of the road? Where is he riding? What's he wearing? He's a messenger. It's a good observation, David. He crashed. Absolutely. He's in the city, Anne. Yeah. He's busy on a busy road. Make sure, by the way, when you're typing things in the chat, that you have chosen the all panelists and attendees bar, not just all panelists. Okay. Going past Macy's. That's a great observation, Frank. All right. All right. He was talking and riding. So this is a little bit of a microcosm of what we do in this course. We go out, do a little bit of needs finding. So you might make some observations, which is something you will do in this course. And from those observations, we start thinking about what might be needed in this particular situation. So what are some of, let me redirect your attention here. Instead of observations now, let's move on to what some of the needs might be. What can you see as a need to help this particular bike courier? A phone holder, okay? Some GPS. So let's try and reframe those comments, not as solutions, but as more as opportunities. So instead of a GPS, for example, we might say he needs some way to navigate. GPS is a very specific solution, but needing a means to navigate is more open-ended. Maybe it's GPS, maybe it's not. And I'll start with the first one here. Turn-by-turn instructions. So that's some type of a navigation system, yeah. Safety, Anne, that's a good observation. A bike path, of course, is a solution. Hands-free control, maybe. He needs to keep control of his bike. It's a good observation, Luke. Good observation. Low distraction. Needs to be able to ignore traffic in some way. Maybe some off-road, a four-wheel bike, that's a good observation. Something low cost and durable. These are things that we, of course, always want in our products. So I want to point out that there's a difference between opportunity, something like turn-by-turn instructions, versus an actual solution, which might be GPS or a map. So that's something we want you to we want to bring to your attention. So this is a project that one of our teams some years ago took on. They went out and did some observations with a bike courier. They made some sketches, looked at solutions, identified needs, and this is some picture straight out of their final presentation, iterations of their solution set. And here's the first page in their presentation: product Blinky, turn-by-turn navigation for bikes, which of course is motorized bicycles. And, we won't go through this whole thing, but here's their solution. So this is just an example in a micro of something you might do in this course. Kind of step you through how the course starts, and we'll talk about how to get you guys started. All right, let me introduce you to our faculty. Jerome, do you want to introduce any of the faculty? I'll tell you what, I'll jump in and do that. So
We need a slide to move forward to the faculty slide.
can you see the faculty now?
No, we're still on the turn-by-turn instruction slide.
Huh, interesting. All right. Hopefully everybody can see faculty now. Jerome, do you want to introduce the faculty?
Yep, sure. So our lead faculty, Professor Stephen Eppinger, is from MIT all the way through bachelor's, master's, and his PhD were all from MIT. And he's the professor of management at MIT Sloan. Many titles, including the General Motors LGO Professor of Management. He runs many programs and directs many programs, including the Systems Design and Management program, the Integrated Design Management program, and he also runs the leading textbook on this, which is Product Design and Development, which is a core resource and is a fantastic piece of work. Actually, I use it all the time in my work. Anyway, so most of the videos that you will be receiving throughout this course will be based on the book and based on the work by Professor Stephen Eppinger, and he will be presenting most of this work. Our final webinar is with Professor Stephen Eppinger too. Brian, could you go on to our next faculty? We have guest webinars by multiple faculty throughout the course. Matthew Cressy runs the Integrated Design and Management program at MIT. This is a graduate program that is incredible. It pairs up designers, engineers, business folk to try to develop products and develop sort of core management skills and how to build companies. And he will give us one of our early lectures on concept development. Brian, could you go to our next?
Excuse me, Brian. It's Charles here from Program Support. Sorry to interrupt the session. The content on the slide is a bit blur.
Okay. How about Brian? I'll take over and share mine. Program Support, could you give me control to share my screen?
In a minute.
Yep, I've got it. Okay. Can everyone see that? Let me open up my chat window again. Okay. All right, guys. I'm driving. Brian, turn on your microphone when you want and jump in. All right, guys. Let's see. We did Professor Stephen Eppinger. We did Matthew Cressy. Let's go to Professor Renee Goslin. She's got a webinar coming up in maybe 4 weeks' time, I think. She is amazing. If any of you are familiar with Richard Thaler's work, the Nobel Prize winning economist, she studies a lot of behavioral-based economics and applies it to the marketplace and applies it to small businesses. And so there's incredible insight that you can find from Professor Goslin's work. She got her master's and PhD from Harvard and recently joined the MIT faculty and is already doing a lot of great work there. And our final faculty member who will deliver a lecture towards the end of the program is Professor David Robinson. He is holds a PhD and MBA from MIT and is a senior lecturer there now. He was a professor of practice at Wharton, and as well he was He held a professorship at IMD in Lausanne in Switzerland for a while. They're the title of the Lego professor, and he does a fantastic lecture on Lego, which we will look at towards the end of the program too. We discussed some of our course leaders today earlier on, so we'll skip that. And let's jump to the survey, which is I was supposed to deliver this to you anyway. So most of you are from the United States. We have 45%. Actually, we have so many of you from others. This is a perfect time to throw up in the chat window where you other 40% are from. Where are you from, and where are you from in the States? Type in your city in that chat. And yeah, 4% from Switzerland, India, and France. Interesting. Okay, professional experience. It looks like we have a fifth of you with 10 to 14 years of experience, another fifth up to 20 years of experience, and another fifth up to 25 years of experience. Very interesting. Okay, that's a very good spread. So we have a lot of people with, are well into their careers and are using design thinking in a very specific kind of way. And I think we have a survey result on that too. A lot of you are consultants, it looks like. And again, a vast amount of others. So yeah, who are these others? Type that into the window right there, and a lot of very interesting big companies here, guys. A lot of Fortune companies here applying design thinking to their work. Nice to hear. All right. What is the main reason for you taking this course? And it sounds like people from these companies, you're applying that to your current role. That's about 2/3 of you are doing that. A lot of you are, hoping to jump into design, hopefully. It's about a fifth of you. Very interesting. All right. A quarter of you have never used design thinking before. That's pretty interesting. But we have another quarter of you who say you're somewhat versatile in it, and about 10% of you, 12% of you have a strong ability. So we got people who are versatile in this that could probably help out here. Hopefully we can spread those people across some teams. But this will be new content to about a quarter of you. So let's get into it. Yeah. All right. About a third of you are employees, managers. You work in a small or medium-sized firm. And there's a lot of you who are, entrepreneurs too, it looks like. Entrepreneurs, independent consultants, very small firms. So it looks like you are applying design thinking at a scale that, I think is actually most effective at. But hopefully the third of you in these larger companies can really apply these skills. And it's the first online course for quite a few of you. Almost 40%. And so Emeritus does deliver a very cool hybrid of online learning, and I really hope you enjoy how we run this course. All right. And some of you have taken one previously, so thank you for continuing to have an online experience. Brian, I'm going to hand off to you for Real Win Worth It.
Great, thanks, Jerome. It's really great to see to learn a little bit about you guys with those surveys. So let's talk a little bit about the framework here that we follow with this Emeritus course. So our key framework is this Real Win Worth It framework. So is it people desirable? That's the real part. And we're going to get started with it. I'll run through it and kind of tell you a little bit about how this fits into our coursework. The second one is, can you win with it? Is it technically feasible? And then lastly, is it worth it? So is it business viable? And how that translates in this course is that the real part is we get you out there observing. We get you out there like the example we showed you with the bike courier. We get you out there doing some observations and needs finding and determining whether or not this need is something that people really find desirable. And then once you've identified that, you can move into whether or not it's technically feasible. Can you win with it? In other words, is it something that's achievable on the market? And then lastly, it's really important to consider the business aspect of it. Is it economically viable? That doesn't mean you have to make $1 million or bazillion dollars like Airbnb, but it does mean that it needs to be financially sustainable. Okay, let's move on here. All right, so let's just kind of walk through what's going on in the course here. So you have 12 weeks. Our first week is choosing a focus, and we've launched right into that. Here we are at the launch of first week. We're gonna get right into identifying user needs. And these, of course, are modules that appear each week. You got an email probably this morning that said that week 1 was just starting up. So this week, you're choosing a focus, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. We'll move into week 2 and identifying user needs and moving on to product specifications. So there's a lot in this course that is, I don't want to say, I guess peripheral information is a good way to say it. Things that we want you to be aware of that we don't ask you to implement. And we intersperse those during the weeks when you're working on your team project so that you get more information, but you have more time to work on your team project. So we talk about product specifications, which is something that is important at the end of your kind of product design sequence, but not something you have an opportunity to implement here. So that's in week 3. In week 4, applied creativity. So we'll start talking about how to find solutions. In week 5, we'll talk about prototypes, something that we don't do in this course. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this course, but something we do want to be sure that you have a little bit of experience in. And then week 6, talking a little bit about the kind of design processes. And then in 7 and 8, we move into financial analysis. 9, design for environment. 10, product development processes. And then the final 2 weeks we give you to actually work on your final presentation. So the final project. All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh, so let's talk about what you need to do to actually complete this course and get your certificate of completion. All of the assignments need to be, all the individual assignments are graded complete or incomplete. So we don't grade you on a B, C, D. If you complete it, it's completed. So that's usually indicated with a 1 or a 0. If it's a 1, it's complete. If it's a 0, it's not complete. We give you feedback on a variety of things to kind of help you understand the content better. Remember, that's our goal, is for you to understand the content. We don't expect it to be perfect. Why would you take the course if you already knew how to do all this? So for a successful completion, we definitely, encourage you to communicate frequently and have good communication with your teammates, to collaborate and be sure to contribute as well. That's really important. We do ask you to be part of a team. That's the way design projects are typically done. So it's really important that you participate in a team. And I know many of you are joining teams now, and we'll talk about that in just a moment and how you can do that. So to earn a certificate of completion, you need to complete 7 of the 9 individual assignments. You need to complete all 3 team assignments, and you need to complete the final team assignment. There's one little change here on that's actually not reflected on this slide, so my apologies, but I'll explain this to you, is that the first team assignment is actually not required. So I highly encourage you guys to do that. The first team assignment is where, as a team, you submit all of the ideas that you have, that you've gathered. So the first individual assignment, which we'll talk about in a moment, and some of you have already jumped in to do, is to come up with 2 ideas. And once you form a team, that first team assignment is putting all of those, collating those ideas together, and then choosing one that you want to pursue. And this is a great way for your team leaders, people like Jerome and I and Jen and Beth, to give you feedback on your choice. We want to be sure that you start out on the right foot instead of choosing a solution right off the bat, which is a very, very common first step that many early designers take. We want you to focus on an opportunity that gives you a wider array of opportunities and solutions that you might pursue. So although the first assignment is not required, we really encourage you guys to do that, because it really helps you get started on the right foot. All team assignments have to be completed as a team. We don't want people to work on their own, so it's really important that you join a team. And of course, you can always contact program support if there's any issues, and I'll show you in a little bit here how to contact program support. All right, there are office hours every single week, and This is an opportunity for you to touch base with your course leaders. We do this as a, each one of us will do a variety of different office hours. You'll get an opportunity to hear from Jin, from Jerome, from Beth, myself. During those office hours, we review assignments. So we'll look at assignments that are coming up as well as assignments that were already due to give you a little bit of feedback and talk about how to pursue those and how to improve them. We preview all of the coursework from the previous module, and then we also, we preview what's coming up and we review what course content might have passed. And we also use this as an opportunity to give you additional content. So maybe some ways that this might be applied or examples of this kind of work out in the real world, or things that help you really grasp this content a little bit more strongly. And of course, office hours are for you. So Q&A, questions and answers, really, really important. So we typically come in with an agenda to get started, but I have found in office hours that sometimes what I come in with is not what we end with. Folks there have different questions, and that office hour is directed at the participants. All right, so let's talk a little bit about using Canvas. Hopefully all of you have had some experience with this, and you certainly know how to get in to Canvas now. There's a couple of things I want to point out real quick about the Canvas homepage, which is this is what you'll see when you get into your Canvas homepage. On the right, you'll have a to-do list. You can see that to-do list over there. And that's a reminder of all the things that you need to do. The announcements are in the middle there, and that kind of tells you what's coming up. So that front page will give you a little bit of an orientation to what's going on for the week. All right, let's move on to the next slide there. Okay, on the left, you can see that there's a bar, and we'll talk about that bar and the account and the dashboard. But just to the right of that, you can see that there's 5 different options. Home, that's where we were. Modules, people, webinar, and support. And we're going to talk about each one of those real quick. If you click on the modules tab right there, you'll see all of the modules that we've done in the past and all the current ones. So each week when you receive that email, like you did this morning, that says we're launching module 1, more content will appear on the Canvas page. And when you click modules, you'll get to see that new content. It's important that you post your profile. I think many of you may have done this already. But if you haven't yet, if you click up there on that, you can see the green circle there on account, that'll give you an opportunity to start your profile. And this allows other people to kind of understand more about you. And as you form teams, this is a great way to get to know each other. So if you click on account, and then in that second step, click profile, it'll give you an opportunity to enter your profile and enter some information about you. If you click on that third tab down there, which is people, you can now find everybody's profile. So these are all of your colleagues that are in this course with you. They're all listed alphabetically. You can search for all sorts of different people. So for example, if you have gone through the individual assignments that people have submitted and their ideas, you might want to go learn a little bit more about that person. So there's 2 tabs up there. There's everyone and groups, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But in that everyone tab, which is what you're seeing on this page, you can actually type in somebody's name and search for them. All right, let's go ahead and move on from this one. And move on from this as well. We're going to direct you, yeah, okay, great. So submitting your ideas. This is something that many of you have done already, but I want to bring your attention to this in case you haven't. Some of you are just joining the class now, so you might be scrambling a little bit to catch up. This is where you can find the individual assignment 0.1, which is submitting to innovation opportunities. So make sure you get a chance to do that. It is it's kind of a big discussion where folks can submit their ideas, and you will have the opportunity to scroll through those and search them.
Yes, I'd like to reiterate that this is so important because this is where you get to share your ideas that you want to work on. This is where your voice gets to be heard at this point.
All right, and here's an example of what that might look like. You can find that discussion and then scroll through everyone's different ideas. So we really encourage you to do that. Okay, here's just an example of somebody's ideas. Let's talk about forming teams. This is the question that many of you are probably going through your mind right now. I know some of you have already started to form teams. So there's a couple of steps to do this. You select a time, and it's one of the important things is we want to make sure that all of your teammates are in a time zone where you can collaborate. So selecting time means that you choose a time that you're available to have meetings with your fellow teammates. We recognize it's difficult to collaborate with somebody who's literally on the other side of the world and your teammates are sleeping when you're awake. Our team should be a maximum of 5 people. We like to keep it just about 5. And we'll step you through how to do that right now. Okay, so if you go to the people page again, and we were there before, you can click on that tab that says groups. And in groups, you will see a whole bunch of different section as well as time zones. So make sure you scroll down to your section. You've already been assigned into a section of A, B, C, or D. So if you move to the next page there, Jerome, you can see you may have to scroll down and find your section if you're in section D. Notice to the right of that, there is a whole bunch of time zones, all right? And so you choose one of those. And once you've joined a group, the way you can communicate with your group is you'll see that that group will appear in the tab on the left. You can click on that and it shows you the group that you're a part of. So in this particular example, you have joined section D, group 13, which meets from 4 to 8 p.m. UTC. And if you click on that tab right there, which is your group, move to the next slide, there you go, then you will have the opportunity to start a discussion amongst your teammates. That's how you get in touch with everybody on your team. Of course, there's a variety of different ways to stay in touch. You can use different platforms. You can use Slack, WhatsApp, Skype. This is a place for you guys to touch base to start with, and then you can determine which group platform you guys might want to use. So hopefully that answers your questions about how to join a team. So just some quick recommendations, and then I think we're going to open this up to questions. I think I see that there's a bunch of questions in the Q&A, so we want to make sure that we leave 15 to 20 minutes to answer everybody's questions. But just some recommendations for success in the course. Stay up to date. It's pretty easy to fall behind. We recognize that you all have day jobs. In fact, Jerome and I both have day jobs as well. So we recognize that you got a lot going on. People have lives and families, but it's really important that you stay up to date. Your teammates are counting on you. And also it just makes it easier to move along, and that content we're giving you is relevant. And if you have questions, joining office hours when those questions are relevant is really a great way to keep up. So we know it's hard, but stay up to date as much as you can. Really important to communicate, collaborate, contribute. Be communicative. Oftentimes we hear from team members who say, hey, I can't get a hold of these teammates. So make sure you're not that person. Be communicative with your teammates. It's really great if something's coming up, just let your teammates know, I'm going to be busy for the next 3 days. I won't be able to communicate. That's okay. I think everybody knows that you're all busy. Collaborating is really important. We stress that as part of the design process. So it's really important that you contribute as well to all of your teamwork. Important to schedule team meetings in advance. I know a lot of this seems like it may be obvious to many of you, but it's hard. We know you're all busy, so springing team meetings on each other at the last minute is, of course, always a recipe for disaster. And then really put that into practice. So take all of this content that we're giving you and use it and put it into practice. So some different tools for scheduling. There's doodle polls, World Time Buddy, which I find, I don't know about you, Jerome, but I find that pretty important because everything is scheduled in UTC, which is not what my watch tells me. So World Time Buddy is a place that you can actually translate times to different time zones. All right. And then lastly, and then we'll start answering all of your questions. There's a support tab underneath all of those tabs on your homepage or wherever when you're on Canvas. We've circled that there in green. This is the way to get in touch with program support. And this is a really important tab that we really want to direct your attention to. If you're having some issues that you need resolved, click on that tab and you'll see this, this window to the right here. So you can fill that out, let program support know what the issue is, and they can get back to you pretty quickly. And in fact, I think on the next page, we can talk a little bit about who you might contact when you're having issues. So for example, we move on to the next page there. Yeah, so who do you contact? So you can get a quicker response if you contact the right person. Let's tell you a little bit about how the kind of duties are split. Your course leaders, like Jerome and Jin and Beth and I, we are there to help you with course content. And the program support can help you with a lot of administrative things. So if you're having trouble logging in, don't know about due dates, trying to find logistical information, can't get a hold of, can't log in, for example, don't know when webinars are being offered or how they're circulated, those are logistical administrative questions. And if you go to that program support page that we showed you on the last slide there, that's where you can get probably a faster response. If you have questions about content, want to share a thought on the course material, want some advice or opinions on coursework or thoughts about how to move forward with an assignment, that's something to contact your course leaders for. Of course, if you make a mistake, it's not that big a deal. If you send your question to the wrong place, we'll direct you to program support. And of course, program support will direct you to us. All right. So I think with that, I think we're into Q&A, Jerome. So let's go ahead and it's great. We have about 15 minutes left to answer questions, and I see a whole bunch have popped up in the Q&A. Do you want to tackle some of those, Jerome?
Yeah, so I've been trying to tackle a few of them in the text. So everyone can actually look at some of the answers to these questions in the answer tab in the Q&A box. Brian, do you know the answer to this question though? Is the Q&A in chat available afterwards as well? Is that recorded?
That's a great program support question. I believe that Q&A is available in the recorded session, and somebody asked whether or not these are recorded. All of the webinars and office hours are recorded, and in that tab where we showed you on the Canvas page there where you can see people and modules, there's also a webinar tab. And when you click on that, it shows you the upcoming webinars and all of the recorded webinars, as well as this slide deck. I think somebody asked about the slide deck as well. The slide deck will be available in a PDF format for you to download. The Q&A up here as part of the transcription of the recording, but the chat does not. So I believe that's correct. That's the way it was in the past. And if I'm wrong, I think program support might jump in and correct that.
All right, so we have a few questions about the lock sign, you know, next to when people are trying to join specific groups, right? Should we talk to program support about that? If I had that kind of question.
Yeah, so let me jump in. Well, they are discussing. I can tell you why that's traditionally happened in the past, and program support may be able to jump in and tell us what's going on right now. Oftentimes, that group may already be full, and we have had some issues in the past. And I want to encourage you to join a group in your section. So if you are in section A and you try and join a group in section B, we've had problems with those groups locking because of that. So be sure that you join a group in the section that you've been assigned to. I also want to point out something I think I forgot to mention is that if you go to the assignments and you can look through the discussion, you can also search for a certain person's name within the group. So if you go to groups and you can see where the groups are assigned, you can type in a person's name and search for that person. If they've joined a group, the group that they have joined will appear. Why might you want to do this? Well, if you've been searching through the individual assignments and the submissions and you found an idea from somebody you really, really like and want to participate in that, you might want to join the same group that they're in. And that's a way to find that person.
All right. This is also another interesting question about groups. What if I'm the only person in my group? you know, do you do you go recruit other people?
Well, typically, I think if you're one person, somebody's got to join first, right, Jerome? So if that person joins, likely other people will join as well. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. We haven't had an issue with groups not filling up. So if you're the first person, just consider yourself a trailblazer.
Okay.
That was
another-
Bianca's
yeah.
question, I believe.
It is, but you get first choice in your time if you pick that group, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
a couple questions actually about by Karen Worth Matt asked this question. If I already joined a team and need to change, is it easy to change?
That's a great question. You can change groups. I think you need program support help to do that. So if you would like to change groups, contact program support and let them know that you'd like to change groups, and they can help you with that. And lots of you are asking about the groups being locked. And I think that's something that hopefully program support is kind of working on and helping with. Evangelos pointed out there's a switch to button. So thank you for pointing that out. The great thing about Canvas and program support, they do a lot of hard work behind the scenes to make these webinars happen. Also to make sure that everybody gets into teams and take care of all the problems. And they're often changing things on the Canvas webpage and updating them to work better. So oftentimes they do things that really improve what's happening on the Canvas page. We don't know about them until someone points it out. So Evangelos, thank you for pointing that out. There is a switch to button if you want to switch groups.
Okay, we've got a couple of really great questions about actual content and the assignment. So I think we should tackle those for sure. This first one, let me find one of them. There are a few people here actually asked it. Well, I'll just ask the question anyway. So once the teams are formed and we submit our opportunities, our individual opportunities, how should we as a team, this is team assignment 1, go about, selecting that opportunity?
That's a great question. So first of all, team assignment 1 is due a week from today. By the end of today, hopefully you will have completed your profile, as well as, and you can actually join a team all the way up to the end of next week. So it isn't something to stress about. So team assignment 1 is due next week. And the question, I think, Jerome, right, was about how to decide on which opportunity to pursue. So there's a variety of different ways to do that. And if you go to team assignment 1, which is now live in module 1, I believe, we offer some suggestions. So a doodle poll is one possibility. Getting together in a team meeting through Skype, Slack, or Canvas to discuss which ideas you're most excited about is another way to do it. I will, let me offer some tips about that. And Jerome, you can chime in too with some tips, because I know we all have ideas and we give a lot of advice to students about this. It's really important that you choose a need, something that isn't a solution. And the reason that is if you choose something that's already solved, all of the stuff we give you in the next 10 weeks is not going to be very applicable and you're going to be frustrated. The other thing that's really important to remember is that we are not expecting you guys to launch a Fortune 500 company after this course. I think that's a beautiful idea and it's a wonderful dream. But really, this project you're choosing is a vehicle for you to apply all of the content and tools that we're teaching you, be able to use them in a hands-on way. And that's the most important thing, is that you have the opportunity to really learn these tools and that you can take them back to your personal life or your work or whatever you're using this for and apply them because you understand those tools. So don't choose something that's going to change the world. 12 weeks is really not enough time to feed all the hungry in the world or to solve our energy problems. And you'll find yourself, although that's noble and wonderful and design thinking can help in that realm, it's just far beyond the scope of the 12 weeks that you have. So don't feel like you're a failure if you choose something that's small, tangible, and really achievable. That'll help you understand the tools. And once you've got those tools, we highly encourage you to get out there and solve the world's problems. But you won't have enough time to do it in this course. And Jerome, maybe you have some tips as well.
Yeah, I would definitely reiterate that. one of the most important parameters of doing good design work is really understanding the scope, right? And so if you only have 12 weeks, try to achieve something that you will also be passionate about. You and your team should probably share your hopes, dreams, and desires in that first meeting, so that you all kind of know that you're on the same page and are willing to contribute to a project over 12 weeks. And think about the scope and what can we achieve, and what can we hope to, think of it as a milestone. Like what will that big milestone be at the end of these 12 weeks? And it's typically, a very well conceived idea, and will help you poke at that idea throughout this entire 12 weeks, right? And maybe at the end of that, you'll have a great vehicle or a great runway to turn this into something big. And so, you can have big aspirations, but think about what that milestone will be in 12 weeks too.
A bunch of you have asked, I see the answers are in the chat, but a bunch of you have asked about how to discover which section you're in. So thank you to Rodrigo, amongst many others, Jorge, who have answered the question in the chat, but I'm going to answer it live for you as well in case you missed that, which is that if you go to the People section, so that People tab on the Canvas page, and search for your own name, it will tell you which section you're in. And that's, if you're not sure, that's a great way to find that out. So, okay, and there were some other questions here about, I think somebody asked about meeting times and how to best find a suitable meeting time. Do you have to do that through Canvas or some other way? And we really, that's a question from Sammy. You can find whatever's most convenient for the team. So when you get together and have your first meeting, figure out what works for you guys. We use Zoom, obviously, like we're using here. We do our own kind of course facilitator meetings through Zoom. That platform works for us. It is free. You can set up, I think 30-minute meetings for free. So that's one opportunity. And we do offer some different suggestions. Some people like Slack, some people do WhatsApp. Find what works best for your team. We don't control that part of it. We want you guys to kind of figure that out. Okay.
There's a great question right at the bottom about from Abhijit, and he's asking about the web browser version of Canvas versus the iPhone version, and the one version doesn't have a send message icon. Maybe you want to talk a couple, 1 or 2 sentences probably, or not, I'll cover it. Canvas compatibility on the phone is not as fantastic on the web browser. So I would say that sometimes if you're having some technical issues, just try going to the web browser and accessing things first. Just because the compatibility with iPhone and Android is not fantastic. We've had technical issues there in the past. So that's just a good troubleshooting piece of advice. If you're having trouble with something, just go check it out first in the web browser, and then contact program support.
So it looks like a lot of the groups are locked, and I think they're working on that. Program support is actually, I'm going to read their comment there just so you all make sure that you've heard it. Send us your request through the support tab, which we pointed out in the presentation, pertaining to joining a group, and they're going to make sure it's done. So if you're having trouble with that, go ahead and send them a message through that support tab on the Canvas page. So some of you have indicated that you've joined groups and now that group is changing. It could be for a variety of reasons, and we can't answer why that might be happening. It may be that some people in your team decided that they wanted to switch groups, and hopefully it's nothing too dramatic. So, and this, of course, is where the kind of chaos begins, right, Jerome? We see this at the end of every intro kind of course. Office hours is that people are madly trying to join teams. And I just want to assure you that it's okay. Take a deep breath. You will all be on a team, and it's really a good experience. You get to meet some great new people, and all of the groups are fine.
It's like your high school physical education class. Everyone's trying to join a team and eager to get in a good team with, everyone's scrambling. That's what happens.
Ben pointed out, by the way, that Zoom offers 45-minute free sessions. So if you were to sign up for a Zoom account for free. You can do 45-minute sessions, meetings for free. And I think it's up to 10 people, so you have no problem getting your team in there. And many of you are pointing out that the groups are locked, and program support is working on that, and I think we just addressed that. So Frank has a question here. I'm going to make this live in the Q&A. It says, if I posted a quote, save the world opportunity, sorry to crush a few of your dreams. I see that in the chat about wanting to save the world. And I think it's a great, noble thing to save the world. You just don't have enough time here in 12 weeks to do it. So this is your training wheels for saving the world. If you, Frank asked, if you posted something there in the discussion, can you change it to something more feasible? Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is, the thing I say about design is everything is malleable. Design is a cycle. So when you start something, you can always go back and change it. Always. In fact, we always return and change things. It's very common in design to start with something and end with something completely different than what you started with. That's part of that cyclical nature of design. So feel free to go back and change that. In fact, feel free anytime in this course to go back and change whatever you need to change to move forward in a way you want to move forward. There's obviously penalties for doing that, and the penalty really is your time. So keep that in mind. Question here about remaining only 2 in a group. We would prefer that you don't. 2 is okay. There's more energy with 4 and 5, and it may be that somebody else will join your group. I don't know why you might be 2, or maybe you want to keep it that way. But keep in mind that if you are only 2 in a group, it's a lot more work for the 2 of you. And if something comes up for one of you, family emergency, some vacation or work things, that becomes much more difficult. There's not much of a safety net with 2. So Lillian asks, I'm going to make this live. Once we select an idea, can you run it by us for feedback and potentially change it if it turns out to be more of a solution than an opportunity? And absolutely. In fact, that's why we really encourage you. Jerome's nodding his head. Yes, we very strongly support this. The real reason that we have team assignment 1 is for you to do exactly that, is to choose an idea and to run it by us so that we can directly give you feedback and help you shape that to be more of an opportunity than a solution. So really, really encourage you. If you want to contact your course leaders before you even submit assignment 1, that's fine. But the point of assignment 1 is to be able to do exactly what you were asking, Lily. Okay. Somebody asked, what's the difference between Canvas and Emeritus platforms, and which one is better to stick with? I think we're really on the Canvas platform. I think Emeritus uses Canvas, so I don't think there's a distinction between those 2. All right, lots of questions here. I don't know if we're going to get to them all. We got just a couple minutes left, Jerome.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to actually, a lot of questions that have been repeated, so I'm just trying to clear some of that. And we've tackled quite a few of them. For Marcus Vaga has asked a question. When using the mobile app, he has to put in his username and password, and you have to select a school. And the web browser version does not seem to work in the app. So perhaps we answered this earlier about try on the web browser version. I don't know if program support might be able to help with a lot of the mobile app problems, perhaps. But we're also taking this course through Emeritus. So if Emeritus Institute of Management is available as a school to select, try that and see what happens.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question here, and I'm going to make this live. Couple last questions here. One of them is, how do we connect with course leaders? You know how to connect with support. That's a great question. Your course leaders, we are in the Canvas message box. So if you go to messages, which is one of the tabs on the left of your Canvas home screen when it comes up, you can simply type in our name and send us a message through Canvas. So that's the easiest way to contact us. We get back as quickly as we can. Sometimes that'll be 5 minutes, but certainly within 24 hours. Yeah. And then there was another question I'll make live here, which is, other than office hours, how many and how often should we anticipate webinars about content? That's a great question. So we have three we have office hours every Tuesday and Thursday. And some of those office hours are content, like this one. So this is technically an office hour, but we have content here that we're covering. There are 4 faculty webinars, which are listed in these slides if you want to download them. I guess we didn't really necessarily bring your attention to it, but down in the corner, there was actually a date that said when these webinars were occurring. And there are 3 content-filled office hours. So we'll talk to you next week, next Thursday, about getting started with empathy and interview techniques. So how do you get started getting out there and interviewing folks and getting some needs finding to get started with your project. And then I think later we have another content office hour where we talk about journey maps. So every week, Tuesday to Thursday, office hours, and 4 faculty webinars that are spread out through the course. All right, I think we've answered both of those. And I know we didn't.
Hi, Brian. Are you there, Brian? Can anyone else hear him?
There's been a lot of questions and things going by in chat. And if we didn't answer your question, go ahead and send us a message through either Canvas messages or through program support.
Yeah. So I think you might have cut out for a quick second there, Brian, but I think the gist is please contact your section leader. Specifically, if you're in section A, you're with me, I think. And each section has their own section leader, and we'll try to deal with you specifically and try to solve your problem. Okay. So I think we're at the top of the hour. Should we wrap up here, Brian?
Yeah, let's wrap up.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, if we didn't get to your questions, just contact us. And of course, we'll be with you here for the whole course. Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening or whatever that might be. Thanks so much to program support for supporting this, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.